Hi there, I'm Sean Power here at the Hilson Studio in Nashville, Tennessee. Today I'm excited to take a look and listen to yet another great preamp from WAMPX. Let's get into it. The WA-MPX is an authentic reproduction of the most revered microphone tube preamp that emerged during the height of the legendary tape era of recording. This style of vintage tube preamp became the signature sound in the signal chain of hit recordings, adding a powerful layer of analog tone and warmth. Even if you've never heard of the Ampex style preamp that inspired the WA-MPX, you've definitely heard it. Les Paul invented reel-to-reel tape recording using the original preamp that essentially pioneered the birth of rock and roll and radio-ready hits. The iconic warm tone of the original tube pre helped define the sound of artists including Elvis Presley, Bing Crosby, Les Paul, Nat King Cole, and Roy Orbison. The tone of the tape era is still used today by artists like Jack White, the Black Keys, the 1975, St. Vincent, and more. As usual with warmaudio products, you've got premium components inside and true to original circuit design. This tube mic preamp is a powerful beast for any studio, delivering an impressive 300 volts of raw power and 90 dB of tube gain. To achieve the analog tone of the original, the MPX is hand-assembled and built with 3 premium tubes per channel, paired with true-to-spec USA Cinemag transformers. This box gives you clean volume for quieter sources like ribbon mics and low-output dynamics, all the way to rich distortion that can be driven hard to match the desired level of saturation for your capture. The selectable tape saturation adds harmonic distortion and natural compression. This instantly delivers the actual sound of going to tape: vintage, analog warmth, and classic tape-era tone. To achieve the full 90 dB of gain, engage the high gain switch for that added 20 dB boost, up from the baseline of 70 dB. The 2K low-pass filter allows you to further shape and focus your tone, dialing in ultimate mid-range warmth and punch. The 80 Hz high-pass filter helps remove unwanted low frequencies from any unruly sources. And of course, like all warmaudio gear, the MPX is 100% hand-inspected and tested in Austin, Texas. Let's take a listen to how it sounds. For drums, we used a pair of WA-84s as overheads going into the 2-channel WA-MPX, and WA-47 in cardioid as a mono room mic into the single-channel unit. The close mics have a little EQ and compression on them, but the room mic has no additional processing. Have a listen to some of these different sounds you can get with combinations of the switches and the mics. There's another production technique that I love to use where you contrast between filtered or dirty sounds and clean sounds to create some interest in a track. This box is awesome for that. If you want to go from just a gritty room mic to a full drum kit in the context of the whole mix, it can really make it pop. Take a listen. For vocals, we use the WA-47F. I split the mic signal to feed both sides of the 2-channel WA-MPX so we could capture the same performance clean and with drive on it. The WA-2A also helped level things out in between the dynamic sections a bit. Adding a bit of reverb on the clean vocal helps it sit right in the mix. The low-pass filter can be super helpful to tame the top end when you want a darker but still gritty sound, but it all depends on what you're going for. We tried it out for this lead vocal.
Locks of a burn, highlighted in copper, eyes of deep blue, lost in a pale face, smile pearl white, ash and gray thighs, royal nylon adores her trap mind, violet lingerie, the skin tight, and that's quite a sight, but
Next you'll hear the difference between having the tone switch on versus off. There's still different takes, but you'll get the idea of how it can affect the tone.
I want it all faded, tainted by the allure but I'm jaded, baited. Give me more. The conversations laced in a colorful fragrance, but I want it all back.
For the acoustic, we used a WA-14 and a WA-84 about 3 feet apart from each other and the acoustic. Take a listen to some of the different tones we can get. You can also add some tape saturation to the signal. Notice how gritty the sound can get when it's soloed, but how it still translates nicely when it's in the mix. One of the things I love about this preamp is the crazy amount of gain that it has available. With the added boost from the high gain switch, it's got more gain on tap than probably anything else that I have in my collection here. This means I can reach for it when I'm using a mic with a lower output, like a ribbon mic or a SM7B, and not have to worry about diming everything and bringing up all that noise with the signal. Check it out on this ribbon mic with just a little bit of tape saturation. Notice that it's nowhere near turned all the way up. There's a lot of opportunities to use the MPX in post-production and mixing as well. You could run anything through it the same way you would put a plugin on a track in your DAW. The exact routing is going to vary depending on your rig and your setup, but the basic idea is the same. Just send the signal you want to process from your DAW to a line out on your interface, connect that to the 1/4-inch TRS input on the WA-MPX, switch the input to line, and record the output on a new track. It's a great way to create your own custom sounds on samples that you may have recorded or gotten from a library somewhere. Here's a sample of using it with some claps from the song you heard earlier. Hear how adding even more grit clips the transients and brings the sound of the space up in the sample. Now you can also use the WA-MPX on a bus like your 2-bus or across your drum mix. It can add some retro flavor to a whole track or shave off some of the peaks on drums if you add the tape saturation. Listen to how that brings the drums forward a bit without actually increasing the amplitude. The cymbals retain their clarity, but there's some cool drive and grit on the mids and lows. It sounds even more gritty when it's soloed, but you'll notice that it feels better when it's actually in the context of a mix. It doesn't stand out quite as much. There are lots of other options and settings as well. Don't be afraid to experiment and find your own sounds. Just keep flipping switches and turning knobs until you love what you hear. As you've heard, this box sounds great on everything we've tried it on. It's got plenty of gain and headroom, plus lots of drive and fun color options when you toggle the high gain and tape saturation switches, as well as the tone switch. If you get nervous tracking with a little bit too much grit on the way in, you could always just decide to record your signal cleaner and run it back through the box later to dial in the perfect amount of grit. Overall, this is a solid, classic sounding preamp that can also spark creativity during tracking by exploring some new driven tones in real time. Why use plugins when you can just use the real thing? Thanks for watching. Head on over to warmaudio.com if you have any questions, and let them know what you think.